Welcome to the Reddit Chronicles. Today we will be reading from Entitled Parents. Our first post is by Virtual Bath. My 61-year-old mother just found the will of my deceased father's parents, and although she is given $20,000, the rest of their estate goes to myself, 29, and my sister, 19. My mother has said to us that we have to give our portion to her. Of course I would give her money if she needed it, but my dad died 2 years ago, and she spent $1 million of his life insurance on trivial things. My sister is disabled and easily manipulated, so she said yes, but I feel it's unfair to both of us to be expected to just give her money against what the will says. She is angry and called me selfish, but it's in the will. I will give her some of it because she's my mom and I love her, but surely I shouldn't be expected to give her everything. I feel a bit angry because she was very mean to me, and also because my sister, who is disabled and can't work full-time, might actually need this money to survive. Anyway, appreciate any comments or advice. Update: we had a long chat, and she apologized. She now only wants a small portion in acknowledgement of her being part of the family. Yes, she still wants something, but it's up to me and my sister to decide when my grandparents are dead. She's still a bit entitled, but whatever, hopefully things will blow over. At the moment, I'm okay with her having some, maybe 50 to 100K out of $1 million, but I'm sure that when I have kids, my priorities will change. I'm going to start trying with my husband in the next year or so, and I didn't make promises. My uncle, the executor of the will, found a letter from his father saying that they gave my mom $150K already as her inheritance earlier, and upon this realization, Mom is somewhat appeased, as is he. I think things are okay for now. Thank you, everyone. I'm still going to copy that will and keep it safe, but I believe the critical period is in the past. Also, she agreed that my sister would only match what I give, which is a major improvement. Our next post is by Anonymous Dork. Bio Dad finally pays child support after not paying almost my whole life. My mom and I are laughing our asses off. So my 19F, mom and Bio Dad divorced when I was 5. Due to our state's crappy family court system, my Bio Dad only had to pay $125 a month child support, which was a load of BS. He made a lot of money with his tattoo shop, but he spent that money on drugs and women while my mom had to make cheap casseroles in order to feed me as a baby, and my older half-brother, who was 14 while she was a stay-at-home mom. My mom found out about that money when my grandma, who's an accountant, got asked to look at his financial records. When my grandma found what happened to that money and saw how much my mom struggled to give us kids basic living necessities, made her livid. My grandma begged my mom to leave my Bio Dad, but she wouldn't follow that advice until 5 years later. When the divorce finally happened, the custody battle was an absolute crap show. The judge was a B, since even my Bio Dad tested positive for every illegal drug except weed, plus testimonies on how violent and a crappy person he was. I still had to visit him every other weekend, which stopped when I was 14. After a bunch of abandonment and verbal abuse, I cut contact with him when I was 17. To make things even more crappy, he's only paid when my second stepmom Sherry made him, as she was divorced with kids too and knew that it was important. My first stepmom never understood what child support really was, LMAO. After the divorce, my mom struggled hard, from couch surfing until my grandma bought us a house, to using food stamps to feed me, and finally building up her teaching career. We finally live a comfortable life. We aren't wealthy by any means, but we live comfortably. Well, recently, as of last month, my Bio Dad has suddenly paid $200, and 2 weeks ago he paid another $200 to my mom randomly. The only reason my mom and I think he would pay now was he may be going to jail again, which says a lot since I'm in college right now. My mom and I are laughing our asses off and even got us a small spa day, since that money is basically nothing right now. Oh well, he only has $9,186.96 to go, LMAO. Our next post is by Crazy Ragdoll Lady. Two kids unzipped my cat's carrier and were reaching inside to pet my cat. This happened a few months ago when I took my cat to a cat show. For those who don't know much about cat shows, when they aren't being judged, they hang out in large pop-up kennels. It's normal for parents to bring their kids to the cat shows, but this cat show had so many kids running around it was insane. I've never seen so many kids at a cat show. I have nothing against bringing your children to cat shows. Just please stay with them and teach them to respect the cat's personal space. So anyways, my cat was sleeping inside a little cat cave inside of his large pop-up kennel. I went to go to the bathroom, and when I came back, two children had unzipped the kennel and one was petting my cat. Why would anyone ever open a pet carrier and touch a random cat they don't know? I would have never done that as a child. I don't know where their mom was, but the girl was saying that my cat wanted attention, and that's why she unzipped it. But he was still inside his little cat cave that was inside of the pop-up kennel. They're lucky I have a ragdoll cat. They are extremely chill, cuddly, social, and known as the puppy of cats. Additionally, my cat volunteers with kids once a week, walks on a leash, and vibes with literally everyone. But I can't describe how upset this made me. I want to add that I've never had any issues with kids at any other cat shows but this one. But another thing is that when I was taking my cat to be judged, a kid touched his tail, and I had a couple other kids try to ask to pet him as I was taking him to be judged another time. Also, I had to fuss at some kids who went to another person's pop-up cat carrier and had their hands and faces pressed against the mesh to see the cat inside, because that's probably very intimidating for the cat. I want to say again that I've never had issues with kids at other cat shows. I don't know what happened at this one, but for some reason, there were so many kids. I would like to add most kids did have parents with them and were behaving well. Our next post is by Nice Sourdough. I'm tempted to finally call it after discovering my dad cut down the 5 feet hibiscus in my garden. What was the reason? Everyone in my family makes excuses for his constant BS, gives him the benefit of the doubt, calls his actions neurotic instead of more accurately, problematic. My one sister always quick to remind me of his other qualities that make him a good dad if I dare try to express and seek some validity in feeling betrayed by how he can treat me. For 34 years I've tolerated his egregious behavior, and I'm deciding if I hit my limit. Yeah. So he cut down my gorgeous hibiscus like a varsity lunatic, stole it, still wrapping my head around really both the what and the why. Me and my husband and my baby were walking around the yard before her bedtime tonight. It was already dark, and my husband, who lol usually so aloof, noticed my favorite flowering bush was not there. We live in a northern state and have already got frost, but this sweet miracle of a hardy hibiscus was still flourishing. Perfection. There were 5 open flowers, big beautiful candy swirled blooms. Gone. Whole plant cut clean at the base. My parents had just left earlier in the afternoon from visiting for a whopping 2 days. They refused to ever stay long, but this was by far their shortest visit. And they live nearly 5 hours away. And they refused to stay at our house, always get a hotel. So all in all, me and my baby got to actually see them for maybe a combined 3 hours, and mostly my mom. My dad doesn't participate in quality time. It doesn't serve him. He stays outside on his phone the whole time or runs errands or messes with, modifies my garden. He usually just plants more plants and flowers, but he's planted over tulip bulbs before and mowed my wildflowers not fully bloomed yet. Because he doesn't ask and doesn't think he needs to. He just does what he wants, and if I take issue with it, he responds like I'm a dickhead ingrate who has a lot of nerve to care about what the garden she tends to summer-long looks like and yields, because he's here, very briefly, 5 times a year, and deserves to call those shots about a property he doesn't own. And if consequentially it actually gives me more work instead of helps me out, well, I'd better eat glass before I mention so. More examples of this in the same spirit. He's taken my car to get a tune-up while I was sleeping without my permission, and threw away so much necessary paperwork an unused gift card, my husband's one-hitter, a couple of my daughter's toys he said were too dirty to be worth saving, plus gum, pens, and air fresheners he didn't like the smell of, because he also got it cleaned. I was to be grateful and not inquire further or act as if those items mattered. Or else, he's thrown away everything in my fridge that was opened, or not to his standard, i.e. a brand new thing of mayonnaise because it was Kraft instead of Hellmann's, replaced it all, not even close, with better, what he likes products. He's taken my dog to get groomed without her proof of rabies vaccination, without me knowing he was going, because he's only on brand if he doesn't ask. He called me up while I was at work, hollering and cursing about how I need to get my vet to call the groomer stat, because he's too old to be dealing with this kind of horse crap, and I should have her tag updated, and the dog is a pain in his butt, and he doesn't have time for this. You better believe I did as I was told, and probably apologized instead of hanging up on his dizzy butt, as you know, a normal adult would when they're infantilized just for existing in someone else's problem. One time when I was visiting them, he decided I was drinking too much coffee. So he replaced the regular coffee grounds with decaf. One evening, I saw a decaf bag of coffee in the cereal cabinet, and I was like, oh, decaf, yay. And I went to make a pot, because I'm an adult who recognizes her biology and doesn't drink caffeine after a certain time. It's as if I'm fully grown and been on Earth for 30+ years. My dad stopped me and chuckled and told me I couldn't have it. Just kept saying it was special. Wouldn't fess up to why. My mom told me what he'd done after he started getting agitated, that I wouldn't drop it. And when I acted horrified at his actual entitlement to arbitrating my coffee consumption, with basically just a stunned silence, he threw his hands in the air and told me that I gotta take better care of myself while walking out of the room, ending any kind of discussion before it started. I have no idea what my dad cut down this hibiscus for. I didn't even know he was in the garden while he was here. He's so sneaky for zero reason. It wasn't in their car when they left. Did he give it to someone? Truly can't think who. Did he plant it somewhere else? If he wanted a couple of the flowers, I would have without hesitation given him some. It's beneath him to ask though. I'm not sure how or when I want to inquire what happened to it. I could go on the offense. I could finally disengage once and for all, no warning, no discussion. I think I'm too cut down for that though. It's like he knows I am. Update. I can't keep up with even a fraction of the comments even if I wanted to. My dad is 71. Yeah, he very likely has a mental illness, be it mild or severe, I don't know, but he's been in therapy since I was in high school. Been on Prozac as far as I know for at least 15 years. Yes, the hibiscus will return. With many of the flowering plants I keep, you cut them at their base at the end of their season, and they return the following year. This morning I called him up and asked him if he'd been choring in the garden while he was here. He said, oh yeah, lil bit. I trimmed your hedges and rose bush and did a little weeding. You sure nothing else? Well, I cut the dead ones that were ready. I asked him if he was referring to my vibrant hibiscus that I have a picture of in the moonlight the night before he arrived with 5 of her blooms shining. He said it was all brown and ready to that. I told him I would send him the picture, and the point aside was he didn't ask. He said, I'm real sorry. I'll ask next time. I didn't let the conversation go on much longer. Told him I had to think about some stuff and I'd call him later. Thank you for listening to the Reddit Chronicles. Follow for more content.